person back there doing that. And I recall the first time we did that, we went to Montana, we built that around the youth actually doing the harvest. And one of my nephews was on the trip, and it caught media attention, and he was being interviewed. And this is what he told the reporter. He said, my ancestors have been hunting bison here ever since your ancestors thought the world was still flat. Granted, my nephew was kind of wise-ass this time, but really his statement really expressed a deep connection to history and a deep connection to place. And we need to find every opportunity we can to re-engage our youth, to bring back the old traditional practices into those traditional places to keep that connection alive and real.
Lynn, your perspective. Whether they happen in cities, whether they happen in culture, we recognize at all times how they're connected with each other. And it's a very powerful story. It's a very moving story. And learning how to help Americans remember the ways that they can tell that story together, that seems to me to be what one of the core missions that certainly the National Park Service has had from its founding act. And it's what a lot of the interior projects have always been about helping Americans remember who they are. That's what shared heritage, shared culture, shared history is. Back to you, Governor.
And that means, too, obviously, the importance of historic and cultural preservation in a state like mine, a multicultural state with great traditions. But as part of that, I want to emphasize one important point. And that is that about 20 years ago, when I was a congressman, I had a very good relationship with the environmental community. But I made them mad once, very mad. I said, you're all asking me here to, I think it was the Malpai, make it a national conservation area. And I like that idea. But you're a movement that's lily white. I don't see one Hispanic, Native American, African American among you. And what are you going to do about it? And I think I have seen in the last 15, 20 years a very strong integration of minorities in the environmental movement. And I mention it because if we're going to have bipartisan support, but if we're going to have a base of conservation leaders, it has to include the people that Cory Booker talked about in Newark. It has to include my friend over here. It has to include the Native Americans that, you know, they hesitated engaging because they're worried about sovereignty. And you know, this is the enormous delight that I'm sitting next to the first Hispanic Secretary of the Interior, a proud generational leader in the West. And I think that's what I see of the real importance of historical and cultural preservation is who we are, bringing us, all of us, into this movement.
For me, is to see the transformation that occurs in people's lives when they know that these beautiful areas belong to them, when they know that their ancestors were there, and the tremendous role that they played in saving these places for us, and how they then become advocates and stewards of the public lands. And one of the things that we always stress is ownership. You own these public lands. You are not a visitor here. You own this, and therefore you cannot be an absentee landlord. Okay? You must take ownership of these properties. Now, the problem that we encounter, the challenge rather, is the tremendous underfunding of grassroots groups. There are, I can point you to thousands of racially diverse grassroots groups around the country that are doing Herculean efforts.
They're able to get resources that really matter to them. And that's the way Outdoor Afro has developed and brewed slowly. It's not a big, you know, it's not like we're in the time where you can put a www up and everyone will come out of curiosity. You really have to cultivate your community, but people only come if there's information that's valuable to them, and if there's a real person and not a robot, or someone who's not really engaged with the work, who's actually managing their strategy.
Now what you're looking at right now is part of Freedman's Beach, right across from Seabreeze, the historic community, and the Gullah Geechee Nation. up as part of Wilmington, North Kakalaki. And so many times today when you come to the area, you might not hear about Seabreeze, you might not hear about Freedman's Beach, but look at the beauty of it. And you see things through my eyes, because this is what I get to treasure here in the Gullah Geechee Nation. And we want whole Pandesia for all the future generation. How are the children to do? Plenty time when hundred are coming down here to the Gullah Geechee Nation, we know say plenty of children start right here in Myrtle Beach, on the boardwalk and things like that. Now, look here, this ain't the real life. You know there's a play thing that children throw up around here. But if you're coming through this here area where they call the Strand, this one place where you can at least stop on the boardwalk, especially don't try to stop and meditate now. But if you want a lot of energy, a lot of things going on, you want to be entertained just by watching the people that are going by, you might want to stop right here. And every now and then, you get a little bit of glance of the waterway and we bought the thing that's going down. So, you know, 100 a day with me, this year, the work going on.
Thanks for spending your Saturday with us. My name is Banana Jack Murphy. I'm from QRadio.com. And if it's happening here at Broadway and Beach.